Stories of torture and abductions continue to make national headlines and attracting international attention. Some of these cases have been brought before the Uganda Human Rights Commission. A section of the public thinks that the commission is not doing enough to bring the perpetrators to book. Today we put the chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Honorable Mariam Wangadya, on the spot. Welcome to this episode of The Hard Questions. I'm Solomon Serwanja. Honorable Wangadya, thank you very much for making time to speak to us on this show.
Thank you. And Solomon, allow me to first and foremost congratulate you on winning that big award. I had not met you since then, and I'm very proud of you as a Ugandan.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that I'm being interviewed by an award winner.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's such an honor to have you on the show. Exactly 2 days from now, you'll be making 3 years in office.
Yes.
You were appointed as the chairperson of the commission on the 29th of September, way back. So,
amazing, you know this.
Of course.
Okay.
For the time that you've been in office, can you account for your time in office for the last 3 years? What have you done?
Okay, what I have done, I have executed my mandate under the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Under Chapter 4 in particular, I have received and investigated complaints of human rights violations. I have presided over a human rights court, we call it the Tribunal, to hear those cases and give redress where due. We have continued to monitor government compliance with international human rights instruments. We've been visiting places of detention to assess conditions of inmates. Solomon, these places are very many. We have so many prisons in Uganda, both central government and local administration. We have so many police stations in Uganda and police posts. Today, almost every sub-county in Uganda has a police post. And it's our mandate to visit all those places of detention, to assess conditions of inmates, to interview the administrators of those places, to interview the inmates, and document their problems and act upon them. How about civic education under the Constitution? Again, we've continued to do that. I'm saying continue because we found when some work had been done. So it is work in progress. We have continued to monitor places where there are human rights incidents. Maybe there is a landslide in the Bududa, maybe there is a Kitezi, unfortunately, to assess the situation, to talk to the people and hear their concerns and make recommendations where necessary, monitoring maybe evictions of people from land, and all our work under the Constitution. I should say that the Uganda Human Rights Commission has the broadest mandate under the Constitution. There is no other constitutional body charged with that kind of duty. Hearing cases, for instance, ideally this is the mandate of the courts. Article 50 of the Constitution says where any person feels they have suffered an infringement of their rights, they should petition a competent court for redress. In my interpretation, that competent court means courts of judicature, not the Uganda Human Rights Commission. But for us, we just, let me say we help the courts do work which is meant for them. So we've done so much. And
I think it's very clear because your mandate in Article 52 of the Constitution that spells out the functions of the Human Rights Commission. The first one is to investigate at its own initiative or a complaint made by any person or group of persons against a violation of any human rights. I think that is one of the core functions of the Human Rights Commission.
True.
Could you speak to us? How many cases have been investigated reported, later on investigated. Before I came for the show, someone told me, ask Wangadya, which case have they investigated of any human rights violations to its own completion and given a solid ruling to that case. But let's first of all start with a comprehensive overview. How many cases have been reported to you? How many have you investigated?
As at 30th June this year, this is our status. We have 892 cases still pending investigations.
892 cases?
Yes. And as at 30th June this year, we have 1,154 cases pending hearing before our tribunal. We have since disposed of, since I took over as chairperson about 3 years ago, we've had to conclusion 483 cases.
For the last 3 years?
Yes, 483 had to conclusion. Had fully and redress given where due. And by the way, redress does not mean only awarding compensations. Redress also can mean and include dismissals. Yes.
But would that performance be classified as an A performance for you in office?
I think A++. I would love to know how many cases are pending hearing in all courts of judicature in Uganda. Mark you, there is only one Uganda Human Rights Commission doing all this work. Yet the courts are very many at different levels, starting magistrates grade 1, chief magistrates, high court, court of appeal, Supreme Court. Just to find out their backlog and compare with ours. And for us, our role is broader. It's not just about hearing cases. As I hear those cases, I also have to do all these other tasks I have just talked to you about. So I think they say you cannot be a judge in your own cause, but I think any reasonable judge would give us A++.
There have been people who have complained against your performance. And one of the reasons that has come out very clearly is that you don't let tribunals sit without you. And that has slowed down the work of the commission. You want to be everywhere. You want to sit on every tribunal.
I see. Am I that greedy for work? Wouldn't I wish? I'm aging, Solomon. I would wish to sit and relax. I became a grandmother. I would love to sit here and play with my grandson. But people who talk like that are ignorant of the provisions of the Constitution. The Constitution says the Uganda Human Rights Commission shall comprise a chairperson and at least 3 members. So without the chairperson, there is no commission. And that explains why, for example, when my predecessor died, the late Haji Medikagwa, there was no single session which was held. The commission was incapacitated. They could not even present their reports to Parliament. So there is no commission without a chairperson. So it is the requirement of the law that every court session has to be chaired by the chairperson personally.
Can't she delegate?
And there is a legal opinion rendered to us by the learned Attorney General to that effect. In fact, we are having, let me say, previous complainants are having difficulty executing those judgments against the Attorney General. Because when you interpret the Constitution strictly, those hearings were a nullity. So it's not that I'm greedy, I wished. Come on, that's cheap. That sounds cheap.
So from what you're saying, you have to sit on every tribunal.
Yes.
And listen to every case.
Yes. together with at least 3 other members of the commission. What practical, selfish benefit would I get from presiding at every session, other than getting so tired recording the evidence every Sunday? I think Sundays and Saturdays are my busiest days because I'm in my library originating draft decisions. I would wish to relax the way the other people do. So I should be appreciated instead of being vilified.
Do you think that that needs to be amended so that there is a level of openness that the tribunals can sit without, in the absence of the chairperson? I mean, you have a backlog of over 1,000 cases that you haven't had, and you have to sit on every tribunal as a person.
Solomon, the reason for that backlog, which is even not big, by the way, it's manageable. The main reason for that backlog is absence of funds. You've put me to task on a backlog, but you don't know what resources we operate with. So
what does it take to listen to a case?
The last session we had was in August. I want to tell you the truth, and maybe the public through you, that this year we may not hold another session. It's not because of the incompetence of the chairperson. It's not because she wants to sit on every session. No, it's because we don't have money to summon witnesses, to pay expert witnesses, to serve process, to pay transport refunds. So the reason for backlog is that, absence of money. And by the way, we found when there had been no commission, technically speaking, for more than 2 years. There was no commission under the law without the chairperson after the death of my predecessor. So we found cases had accumulated. But within 3 years, we've been able to hear to conclusion 483 cases. If we had the necessary resources like other institutions, by the way, this backlog would be history. So you asked me whether the law should be amended. Now that we are due to be merged with the Equal Opportunities Commission, I have written a legal opinion to the effect that the commission should have a deputy chairperson. So this Human Rights Commission, I think, might be the only constitutional body without a deputy. The Electoral Commission has a deputy chairperson. The Inspector General of Government has 2 deputies. Public Service Commission. But the Human Rights Commission has no deputy. Yet we have the widest mandate. So I have recommended that there should be a deputy chairperson with exactly the same qualifications as those of the chairperson, so that in my absence, those sessions can proceed.
Yes, it's interesting. We'll get to the money bit later, shortly, because I know that, for example, for the financial year 2022-2023, you received about 20 billion from government and an extra about 1.8 billion from development partners. Yes. And maybe that helped you to deal with a number of cases, but
very few. You know how many regional offices we have? 12. And under those 12 regional offices, we have 12 field offices, and which receive complaints on a daily basis. So, but how about investigating those complaints? By the way, we need money. We need money to go to the people and interview them. Where we are handling cases of torture, we need to go and interview people in those medical facilities where the complainants say they were examined or treated, other than relying on just what they are telling us. So you can't do that effectively without money, without vehicles, without computers. So for us, we receive more criticism than support, but it is okay. This is a difficult work. As to why some sections of the public may not be satisfied, we have so many stakeholders. Everyone is our stakeholder individually and others collectively. The people of Uganda are our stakeholder. And they are not homogeneous. Among the people of Uganda, there are sections. Some of them under political parties, others under ethnic minorities, then children, then indigent women, the LGBTQ community, PWDs, and then we have civil society groups who are also our stakeholders. We have the development partners, government, parliament. We are responsible to Parliament. It's where we present our budgets. It's where we present annual reports. So all those are our stakeholders. You in the media, you are our stakeholders. And so many others. To satisfy all those is near to impossible. I don't think anyone is up to the task. Even these cases we hear, at the end of the day, one party will leave when they are not happy. If I dismiss a case, the complainant will go cursing. If I uphold the claim and award so much money, maybe the respondent, usually the state, will not be happy. So at any one time, it's impossible to satisfy everyone. Yeah. I want you to understand.
No, I hear you. One of the latest incidents when you were listening to a case, and I think that was by Robert Kyagulanyi, who filed his petition back in 2018.
And I hereby withdraw my complaint to this commission because this lacks the impartiality, it lacks the independence to hear this case.
And he felt like, you know, you have not, as the commission, given this case priority. There are cases that date back to 2015 that were filed by Dr. Kizza Besigye for continuous arrests and detention. There are cases that have, like, walked back in time. By the time you come to hear them, evidence has disappeared. And like they always say that justice delayed is justice denied. By the time you invite Kizza Besigye on a case he filed back in 2015, clearly it's years later. And people feel like maybe people have lost hope in the commission. People feel like, wait, should we even report this case to the commission if cases that date back to 2015 haven't been heard?
Why should people lose hope in the commission? Maybe one, they don't know fully the mandate of the commission. Hearing cases is a very tiny component of our mandate. Our mandate is so broad. It goes beyond hearing cases.
And you elaborated that at the beginning.
Yes, before we even hear those cases, we have to investigate them. So, and that requires resources. And I respect Honorable Dr. Kizza Besigye, I respect Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, but I want to say that maybe it's not fair that we are judged just along the lenses of these two gentlemen. With all due respect to them, we are answerable to every Ugandan. Every complainant is equally important. And when it comes, first of all, in 2018, okay, I was not around. I was not part of the commission. But
so you presided over a backlog?
I presided over. Okay, these are cases I inherited, by the way. I was not around in 2015. When even those cases were reported. But I know some work was done on them. That case of arresting Kizza Besigye, releasing him, then taking him back to Nagalama, whatever, home arrest, it's being heard. Actually, it's at defense level. The only reason it has is still pending is we don't have money to convene the sessions. So, Honorable Kyagulanyi, the same story.
You don't have money?
We don't have money. And again, this case was filed, I was not there. He eventually withdrew.
Because he lost hope?
I don't know whether he had lost hope in the Supreme Court when he withdrew his election petition. There are different reasons why people withdraw cases. Some withdraw them, others abandon them.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks and I know that you've spoken about the funding gap that the commission, the challenge that the commission is facing has largely been the funding. But we'll get to that. Let's talk about the nature of the cases that are filed before you.
Okay.
We clearly know that some of these cases, some of which are political, by the way, they are tortured victims that have filed these complaints before the Human Rights Commission. We have detention without trial. We have abductions. People, Honorable Wangadya, people are being tortured before our faces. We have covered some of those stories. Some of these issues have been brought before you for hearing. Some of them, according to your investigation, I've just read a statement at the time when you're speaking to the media that some of these cases are not true, of torture, of abductions. Some people felt like you did not take the issue of torture and the cases that were brought before you very seriously. Would love to hear you on that.
Solomon, you said these cases are political, then they are torture. We don't have any such category as political cases in our register.
Let's say tortured. Okay, let's talk about
yes, but we have torture cases. Yesterday, at a certain function, I said about 50% of the cases we receive are allegations of torture, followed by allegations of infringement to the right to personal liberty, and then wrongful deaths, violation of the right to life, in that order. But we don't have any category of political cases. And then you say that people brought those cases, they left when they were not satisfied. By people, again, I think you are meaning a certain political party. Solomon, you don't seem to want to broaden your lenses to every corner, every person in Uganda. There are so many people who have left when they are happy with our work. So it looks like you have in mind the case which was brought to us by the Secretary General of the NUP, yes, Mr. Wangadya. Yes. And that case, I would need so much time to talk about it. But briefly, let me say this. When that case was brought, Mr. Wangadya requested us to look for and find a list of, if I remember well, 31 people whom he said were NUP supporters. Originally, he had wanted us to find, I think, over 2,000 people. But when I requested for particulars of those people, the over 2,000 people became 31. And then the particulars given to us were very scanty. All that is documented in our report, which we issued. We are the only ones who investigated those accusations and issued a report. Parliament has a Human Rights Committee headed by Honorable Fox Odoi. It's heavily funded, unlike us. Where is their report? I wish you could see their report and compare with ours, whether they came up with anything different. Investigating that case was very costly for us. And at some point, I took a decision to end the investigation. If I had not done that, maybe we were going to lose some staff members. The names which were given to us, together with telephone numbers, sometimes without physical addresses, turned out, many of them turned out to be phantom.
What do you mean?
So many times my investigators would call me. We have called this number. This lady is saying she's in Bugolobi Market. So we went to Bugolobi Market. She said, find me in Chotera. We went to Chotera. We called. She didn't pick. When we called again, she said, find me in Kachiri. When we went to Kachiri, we called. She did not pick. And this happened in so many cases. By the way, usually, if my family member is missing, I'm the most affected, I'm hurt. It should be me to follow up the investigator, to call them. Genuine people who are hurting because their people are missing. They call me, they call my director, they call the investigators. But in this case, it was us following them, begging them, please come and talk to us. Come and record statements. That we did not succeed. So I thought my girls were moving round and round, and I feared for their safety. So I called off the investigation. But I published our report with the little evidence we managed to find.
You see,
so I suspect the motive, that the motive for bringing that complaint may not have been positive. It is very rare.
So you didn't think
that
what was your conclusion?
Somebody brings a complaint and they are not willing to have it investigated. I mean, where do you find that?
Like they did not present witnesses when you're doing investigations?
Even the actual complainants were not willing to talk to us. So somebody is presented as a widow or as missing her husband. He was abducted and disappeared. But this person does not want to talk to us until some of them in Zendeka, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't know what even if you had brought FBI, I don't know where they would have gone with an investigation where the complainant or victim does not want to talk to you.
But okay, after having done your investigation, did you zero in on some of those that you investigated and there was evidence of torture? And what did you do about it?
The very few, maybe 4, which we retained, were not actually about torture, but over detention. These are people who were, you said detentions without trial. These ones were facing trial for vandalizing electric wires, for terrorism, you know, for murder, and they were facing trial. So these were not detentions without trial. What we found was that before they were taken to court, they were detained beyond the 48 hours as provided in the Constitution. Maybe, Solomon, after this interview, I want to avail you a copy of our report on that issue so that you inform our viewers or listeners, whoever did not get to hear that, but we did. And I published this report. I shared it with the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament. I shared it, I addressed it to Mr. Wangadya. I called a press conference and presented that report. And within a few hours after presenting that report, there was a demonstration at my office. Young women holding placards, demanding that I vacate the office. And these women said they had just arrived from Nakasongola, Rakai, Chotera, Kalangala, and I wondered, how possible was it that within less than 2 hours after I presented my report at a press conference, very smartly dressed young women have traveled all the way from Nakasongola. So I wondered, I mean, did they fly? Did they come by helicopter? Anyway, I hid in my office, I was protected, and yeah, here I am today talking to you. So yeah, some of those things they raise suspicions in our minds.
And there's a section of the public that have questioned your credibility and independence.
Yes.
Some of them saying that you're a sympathizer of the NRM and you do not come to this commission with an independent mind, especially that you were appointed by the head of state. What would be your reaction on that?
The Constitution says the Commission is independent. And,
are you independent?
And must not be subject to control by any person, even if that person is the president. For me, I'm open to be judged, Solomon. I believe I'm independent. By the way, the president appoints the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and all the members. He appoints judges. He appoints members of the Public Service Commission, Health Service Commission, Education Service Commission. He appoints commissions of inquiries into issues.
The Electoral Commission.
I don't know whether all those are not independent. Judicial Service Commission, which identifies candidates for judge, are appointed by the president. Let me hear you question their independence one of these days, other than targeting only Wangadya.
Do you feel you're just targeting?
But why don't you judge me by the fruits of my work? Maybe that's the best way to determine whether I'm independent or not. But again, when you began this interview, you were mainly interested in cases we've had. I want you to go to our archives and look at all the cases we've had. And you determine the percentage of those cases which have gone against the government, presided over by me. A large majority of them have gone against the government. And I'm not saying this is what we must continue to do to prove our independence. We have to be fair to every party. For me, I believe I'm independent, but those who judge me have their own assessment of me. But me, I want to assure the public that I'm independent.
I hear you. I wanted to, before we can take a deep dive into your independence, I wanted us to talk about whether the Commission has taken note of the abduction of Ugandans in drones.
In drones?
Yes, security operatives come and pick people. Some of those people have never been seen again. I know that you know the subject of drones and the torture that happens in there. Has the Commission, because the Commission does not only listen to cases that have been filed at the Commission, they can also institute an investigation by themselves. Has the Commission taken any initiative in its own power to look into the abduction of people by drones and the torture that happens in these different state operative torture chambers?
Solomon, maybe you have more information than I do. But is there a difference between an arrest and an abduction? I think there is. The Police Act gives the police authority to arrest any person upon suspicion that that person has committed or is about to commit a crime. By the way, even an ordinary wananchi can arrest somebody and hand him or her over to police. I don't know whether that is an abduction. And then, at first I didn't know what this word drone means in our context. Eventually I got to hear about it. But now I see almost every car in the shape of a van. Sometimes people call all those drones. But I want you to confront me with the facts, with the names. You are saying so many people have been abducted and taken to torture chambers. As an investigative journalist, an award winner, I'm sure you have some names of those people. I want you to share them with me.
I will present to you an investigation that we've been looking into. Like you will do investigations.
Yes.
And I'm happy to present these findings to you.
Yes.
Before end of this month.
Game on.
With evidence.
Yes.
And the media has captured that.
Yes.
I'll give you a classic example. We saw how a member of parliament, Akamba, was actually abducted out of the courts of justice, put into a drone car and whisked away. I'm sure you are alive to that fact.
Solomon, this matter is sub judice.
The matter of arresting a person and putting them into a drone is sub judice.
This matter is pending a ruling by His Lordship, Justice Lawrence Gidudu. I won't resist that temptation to comment on it.
Honorable Wangadya, are you aware that the people are being picked by drones? Are you
aware of?
That there are people who are being picked in drones?
Solomon,
by security operatives with guns.
Solomon, I'm a lawyer and I want to, and not any ordinary lawyer, I head a constitutional body. I want to, my statement carries a lot of weight. And I want to make a statement which is factual and based on evidence. You said you have done some investigation and you have a report before end of this month. This month is ending very soon. Yes, please share with me that report. That to cause me to talk in vague terms, I don't have that luxury. There are so many people being abducted by security forces. By the way, we have the army, we have police. I don't know which security forces are doing the abductions. And I don't know any place which is gazetted as a torture chamber. So for me, I don't want to talk in general terms. I want specifics and I want evidence. At least begin with a victim. Give me a name of a victim. But to think that you'll corner Wangadya to just throw statements around.
Honorable Wangadya, you mentioned on this show that 50% of the cases that are reported before you are torture cases.
I say the allegations of torture. And we do investigate them, we hear them, and give redress. We are only hampered by limited resources.
All right, let me just...
And those ones are documented. We publish reports every year. Sometimes we publish periodic reports, like on what you call the abductions of NUP supporters. I issued a report. I want you to compare my report with the report of the Human Rights Committee of Parliament before you accuse me of not being independent. What did they find? Is it any different from what we found? Yes, you're an investigative journalist. You'll get that, Solomon.
Yeah. Well, I want to put some facts to you since you said you're a lawyer and that you work with facts. This is just a report that was launched earlier on this week by the African Center for Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture Victims, SCTV, yes, which I'm sure you know. They
Yesterday?
I think this week, earlier this week.
Yes,
they mentioned
I attended that.
Yes, and I think if you attended it, you know that they registered about over 1,000 cases of torture. Most of which actually were committed by the UPDF in different sub-regions, Karamoja, I think there were cases in Kampala. These reports form part of the evidence that perhaps you are alive to, reports that have been investigated by a credible organization that has been looking into this. And you were actually requested to come and be one of the guests on that launch.
Yes.
That is evidence.
Now, I listened in yesterday when this report was presented. SCTV was marking 30 years since they were created. And it is me who requested for a copy of that report. A soft copy was sent to me last evening, which I'm studying. But so far, you know, I respect SCTV. They are a key partner to the Human Rights Commission. The list of all those cases they presented were cases received, the cases they received, but not fully investigated. So to me, they received cases of alleged torture, but they did not receive torture cases. So until they are investigated fully, backed by evidence, I cannot safely say all these people were tortured. And by the way, again, with greatest respect to SCTV, these places they mentioned, we have offices there. Our office in Moroto has been documenting cases of alleged torture arising from the disarmament process. So this wasn't something entirely new to me. They mentioned the northern Uganda. We have regional offices in Gulu and Lira. and we have a field office in Kitgum. So there is nothing entirely new to me in particular, which I had. The more reason we also have to subject that list of cases to our own investigation. We cannot rely on an allegation to reach a conclusion without an investigation. That is not fair, it's even not professional, and it's unreasonable.
All right, as you study that.
Yes.
Another key concern that has been raised is the trial of citizens in military courts. Some people think that that's unfair and it's against their rights.
Citizens, you mean those who are not soldiers?
Yes, to be tried.
Civilians.
Civilians, yes, I'm saying civilians tried in military courts. Would have thought that the Uganda Human Rights Commission would pick interest in that.
How can we not pick interest? We do.
What have you done about it?
I picked interest in this matter long before, maybe decades ago. By the way, Solomon, I'm not new at the commission. I'm the longest serving member of the commission. Before I moved to the office of the IGG in 2013, I had been a member of the Human Rights Commission from 1996. I was just about to make 17 years as a commissioner there. And as a commissioner, I inquired into cases of civilians being tried in the court martial. Now, the UPDF Act, under Schedule 1, says that all civilians who are found in possession of weapons and other gadgets which are ordinarily a preserve of the army fall under the jurisdiction of the army court. That is what the law says. Go and look at it. So when I inquired into that matter, actually, when did I start inquiring into that matter? When, Solomon, I think you are very young then, maybe you heard of people who were arrested from Ituri forest. And one of them was actually my friend. He's now deceased, a lawyer. And we were taken to the court martial. So I picked interest in that matter. And the court presented their evidence to me. We did not arrest these people from their homes. We arrested them in active combat, fighting the UPDF. So we have jurisdiction over them. But ideally, civilians should not be tried in the court martial.
And yet we have Olivia Lutaya and her counterparts facing the military court martial.
Olivia Lutaya. I will inquire into that.
You're not aware about that?
Solomon, what do you want?
Are you aware that Olivia Lutaya and a couple of colleagues are before the military court martial?
This is an interview, Solomon. It's not an interrogation. I'm not on trial.
Yeah, because I would have felt that you would take interest in it.
But I also want you to be interested in a broad section of Ugandans. You seem to be interested in only a particular group of Ugandans.
At least those have brought to light the key issue here.
Why don't an investigative journalist, award winner, you should investigate into
justifiably so.
Justifiably of all Ugandans.
Yeah, but we have
not
seen,
just one group.
At least these groups give us a sneak peek into what's happening. That's what I was saying. Having picked attention in that issue, what has the Human Rights Commission done?
As we inquire into this matter, I know that all these people are legally represented. I want to appeal to their lawyers to file petitions in the Constitutional Court challenging the jurisdiction of the court martial as a starting point. They can do that. By the way, there are people who have petitioned the Constitutional Court along those lines and succeeded. Yes. But also remember that under Article 53, the Uganda Human Rights Commission is barred from inquiring into any matter pending before any court or tribunal. I wish I had my copy of the Constitution here. We have no mandate to inquire into any matter pending or which has been heard by court or by any competent tribunal. The Army Court is one such competent court. So we have no mandate. Even if I formed an opinion that the trial of Olivia Lutaya in the court martial,
which has taken over 4 years,
is wrong, it's unconstitutional, it's a violation of her right, I have no mandate to order the court martial to discontinue the trial.
At least you'd be on record.
Just to be on record.
At least you'd have been seen doing something.
Let me go on record. It is wrong for the Army Court to try non-combatants, civilians, in their court in breach of the UPDF Act and the schedules thereunder. Am I now on record?
You're on record?
Yes.
At least if you put that in writing as well, it would be great. But one of the things that has also put the Commission in an interesting position is the passing of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. At the time of the passing, because your job as the Uganda Human Rights Commission, you look at human rights with an equal lens, with an same lens, whether it's torture or discrimination or all these things are rights. The Commission slid into the spiral of silence at the time many thought would stand up and be counted at the passing of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. In fact, some people thought that you'd apply to court as amicus, friends of court, to give your views, or even as petitioners on this issue. The Uganda Human Rights Commission took a back seat and watched from a distance. Today, we would love to put this question to you. Why?
It's not true that we watched from a distance. A lot of work has been happening underground. And I want to tell you that it's not okay for a constitutional body to apply to be amicus curiae in a matter. I think there is other work we can do without having to appear formally on a petition. In any case, this petition had many other petitioners. Technically speaking, I don't know what value we would have added by being amicus curiae. Yet we have done so much work without doing that. You've heard me getting very vocal about this. Actually, even in breach of the sub judice rule, this matter is pending final disposal by the Supreme Court, and yet here I am talking about it. As a lawyer, actually what I'm doing is unprofessional. But because human rights, human dignity is so important, I've decided to talk about it, regardless of the consequences. So, Solomon, we've not been quiet. I have been speaking about this. I will not go too much into what we've been doing. But let me use this opportunity to, in very few words, say I have engaged His Excellency the President on this matter. I tried to meet him before he assented to the law. I failed. But later on, I did. I could not go to NBS, to Solomon Serwanja, to say, here I am now going to meet His Excellency the President to talk to him about this. No. And I did not have his authority to tweet about it. But I sought his authority to let the law lie in abeyance as we wait for the outcome in the Supreme Court. I got his authority to talk to the Inspector General of Police to ensure that no one is arrested, detained, or harassed in any way under the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And that one I have succeeded. I think what I have done is a mountain compared to a hill of being party to that petition. And there is work in progress.
But there is a law to this effect. You
Yes,
alone cannot just
the
say
law
police
is-
do not arrest.
the law- but
the
they are
police
not-
can arrest.
They are not
because there
arresting
is a
them.
law.
But I want you to appreciate at least what I have done in this environment. So it is not okay that you accuse the Human Rights Commission of doing nothing, yet we've done so much.
What is the position of the Human Rights Commission on the Anti-Homosexuality Act?
The position of the Human Rights Commission on gay rights was adopted way back in 2014. Again, I was not a member of the commission then. I had left. But that position has never changed. We have never set it aside. It remains. And that position is that all rights are human rights. Everyone is entitled to their right to privacy and human dignity. The Commission has a vulnerable persons unit under the Directorate of Monitoring and Inspections, where any issue arising on the rights of the LGBTQI community is handled. And of late, we've actually even amplified it. We have decided to create a special desk wholly devoted to rights of the LGBTQI community. Today, I've been sharing a story. I told you I went to close a 5-day training for some lawyers and medical doctors and social workers today at Esela. And I shared with them that there is a case which was reported to be under that desk, to me personally, by a lesbian woman who is fighting over custody of her children. She had these children when she was still married to a man and moved on and got another partner who is female. But there is struggle over her custody over the children, because the father of the children feels this is not the environment I want my children to grow into. So I have intervened in that case. So, Solomon, since you are an investigative journalist, look into those issues. By now, you ought to know we have that desk. Yes, you are an award winner.
But at the time of the passing of that law, you were not the person you are now.
By the way, I was
Even the people who thought that Wangadya called people perverts, and but now she's different.
When did I call anyone a pervert?
Well, there's someone saying, okay, like, no, okay, maybe that's a big word, but they felt like some people think you've changed a big deal from the Wangadya then to the Wangadya now. Now you are interacting with these people, you are bringing them in, you know, you're showing that you care about this
even
marginalized community.
Paul. But who says that people don't change? Let's assume I did nothing all along, but I've now changed. Even Saul became Paul. There are some people who even expressed shock that Wangadya has condemned the arrest, prosecution, and incarceration of 3 young women who were demonstrating and walking to Parliament. And they said, you know, sometimes...
Actually, many people were shocked.
Sometimes people just don't know us. For me, I would rather my work speaks for me. Not just words. Actions speak louder. So people were just not aware of my actions. Some
people actually felt, wow, Wangadya.
So
they were shocked at the Paul who was once a Saul.
I mean, it was very clear to me that these are harmless young women who are armed with placards, not stones or machetes, and they are expressing a grievance, and that they are being, and then the offense is a common nuisance, which any lawyer will tell you is actually a civil wrong, a tort. It shouldn't be a crime. So when I call for decriminalization of those offenses, people don't know that I've been against criminalizing prostitution for a very long time, because there is no victim in that offense where there is a buyer of a service, there is somebody willing to offer this service in exchange for money. And so, so when I say that, please stop, drop those charges, release these girls, and then you say, oh, what happened? Why is she so different? No, first of all, every person at some point can change. So maybe I've changed for better. And Solomon, you should congratulate me instead of putting me to task.
There are actually people who thought maybe Wangadya is doing this for funding. She has a funding gap. She has to get funding from external partners to support the work of the Human Rights Commission. And she has to be seen in a certain way defending human rights, at least from the donors who have explicitly come out to say, some of whom have come out to say that they're against the act. They're against the passing of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. The European Union is on record. The US Embassy, the Americans are on record, and several people. And so maybe people thought Wangadya is transforming to be able to attract funding to do the work she's doing.
Wangadya is halfway through her tenure. And by the way, as I speak now, government is about to release money. I don't want to go into the amount of money.
You currently are running on a 20 billion budget.
Yes, but I got the president to write a letter. Anyway, since he wrote this letter to the Minister of Finance and gave copies, I can share with you the amount of money he authorized to be paid to us, 33 billion shillings. And he wrote this letter maybe 2 months ago. So, part of that money is about to be released to us, maybe by end of next week.
Through a supplementary budget?
Yes. So this is really not so much about that. And how come, up to now, I've not seen any of those people you are mentioning who has approached me to say, hey, Wangadya, we now want to fund this. None has approached me. I've not got any call from the ambassador of US or ambassadors of the European Union. I have not heard from any of them saying, hey, what you are saying, now that you are poor, we are so happy and we are giving you this. I haven't seen that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Let's, before we
Solomon, why don't you encourage people who do better things? Maybe I've been underperforming. But now if I'm beginning to perform to your satisfaction and other people out there, they should give me support instead of questioning my motives, even wrongly, by the way. Yes. Because Wangadya will leave the commission in 3 years or even earlier, but the commission will remain. Yes.
And you need money, so I hope that the extra 10 billion will take you a long way.
Yes.
You have been in the news lately on whistleblowing against corruption.
Yes.
I thought that we could talk about that. And I know this also is in line. But perhaps before you get there, the conversation of returning the Uganda Human Rights Commission to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
That is history. That conversation is maybe a decade old. There is now a constitutional amendment bill in Parliament retaining the Human Rights Commission as an independent institution. On the contrary, it is the Equal Opportunities Commission which they wish to merge with us to make us even stronger.
Let's talk about the case. You've been in the news for this bribery case. You whistleblew, raised the red flag. You've been testifying in court against MPs.
Yes.
Who asked you for a bribe. What motivated you? Let's start there. It speaks loud for me about your pushback against corruption.
For which maybe I should be commended, really.
Does it scare you that you raised this red flag against corruption?
That one I can give you a firm answer. Yes, I'm very scared.
Why?
Because of the, but I don't want to comment on this, but I'm very scared. Previously, you journalists would come and talk to me here, And you'd find me here alone, maybe with my baby grandson. Today, you know, I'm not alone here.
Do you honestly feel like your life is at risk?
Yes, I do.
You took a bold step. That's a bold step to whistleblow, actually.
It is. It's a very bold step.
Yeah.
Not many people could do that.
I know. And you pulled out the whole investigative journalism skills and tabled evidence that is actually supposed to be used. But do you have hopes in court that, in the court system, that the culprits will be punished?
Without commenting on this specific issue, I have confidence in the courts of judicature of the Republic of Uganda. I'm a court user. I began my career as a lawyer in private legal practice. I used to appear in courts and defend my clients. Sometimes I would lose those cases, sometimes I would win. And I know that the decisions of my court, the Human Rights Court, are appealable to the High Court of Uganda. And I think it would be dangerous for us not to have confidence in our courts. We should. And we should also have confidence in the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Yes, I have confidence.
Honorable Mariam Wangadya, what do you want this country to remember you for?
To remember me for what you've just said, actually, blowing the whistle on corruption. They should also remember me as one of the pioneer members of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, a body with the broadest mandate under the Constitution. No other constitutional body has such a wide mandate. And to remember me as a person who is well-intentioned, who is genuine, who is a genuine human rights defender. It is up to the public to decide whether I am a Saul who became Paul. But even when Saul became Paul, he was embraced by Jesus and he was not doubted by the rest of the disciples. So I want us to think positively about others. I want them to remember me as a hardworking person who is doing, or who has done her best within a very difficult environment. Difficult in the sense that we don't have, we have hardly sufficient resources, and we are maybe over-criticized. That is part of the environment we work in. We are overjudged. So, but I want to be remembered as somebody who was willing to do her best in those circumstances.
Honorable Wangadya, anything else you want to tell the public?
The public should retain their confidence in the Uganda Human Rights Commission. We are, contrary to perceptions by some other people out there, maybe like Solomon, we are independent, we are impartial, we take no sides. There is absolutely no value in me taking sides. We are at the service of the people. People should feel free to bring their complaints to us, regardless of who they are, where they live, their lifestyles, where their rights are threatened. They should bring their complaints to us.
But they take years to do.
If we were empowered, Solomon, these cases I told you about, which are pending.
Over 1,000 cases?
Yes. If we had the resources, we would dispose of, I think, not less than 20 every week.
Wow.
Yes. We would be more effective if we were funded. I want these criticisms to be matched with the provision of resources. Here I am, I'm supposed to, by the way, part of our authority is to order release of illegally detained people. But here I am, because I'm incapacitated, I don't know. I don't know how many people have overstayed in detention at Mukono police station. That one I don't know, you know. So outside there we are criticized as incompetent, uncaring, but I don't know how many people would survive on fuel worth 500,000 Uganda shillings a month for the chairperson of the commission to traverse this country to do all these things I've been talking about. So, Solomon, I want you to inquire into what other institutions are given and what they deliver, and you compare with us. By the way, even our earnings.
We think you're earning millions.
Oh, so you're an investigative journalist. Go and find out the salary of the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, the salary of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Wow. The salary of the IGG. So I think I should end with calling for empathy, understanding, and support. As a public servant, the public has every right to criticize me, but they should also push for more resources to be given to us by government. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Honorable Wangadya, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much, Solomon.
Thank you.
You promised not to ask me tough questions.
Thank you.
Yet you began in hiding.
You've been listening to the chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Honorable Mariam Wangadya, on the hard questions, speaking about the challenges, the work that they're doing to push back against human rights violations. I'm Solomon Serwanja, and this is the Hard Questions.